Good morning. Welcome to our daily devotion. It's Friday, November 20th. Right now, at this very minute, my brother's funeral is taking place at Catholic Church there in Bismarck, North Dakota. Wishing we could be there to give him respect, but this virus is keeping us separated. Good morning, Grace. Good morning, Serena. We're in John chapter 21. I'm going to read verses 15 through 17. It says, "When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, 'Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these?' 'Yes, Lord,' he said, 'you know that I love you.' Jesus said, 'Feed my lambs.' Again, Jesus said, 'Simon, son of John, do you truly love me?' He answered, 'Yes, Lord, you know I love you.' Jesus said, 'Take care of my sheep.' The third time he said to him, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, 'Do you love me?' He said, 'Lord, you know all these things. You know that I love you.' Jesus said, 'Feed my sheep.'" Now, let me go through this. Morning, John. Morning, Roz. Morning, Grace. Morning, Anna. I don't know if you say Anna or Anna. Probably Anna. That's my mom's name. My mom's name. She's 102, so you may live to be 102. Interesting. A bunch of interesting stuff here. Jesus asked Peter 3 times if he loves him. Why do you think he asked him 3 times? Well, because Peter had denied Jesus 3 times. You remember that, where he told Jesus that he would never leave him, and Jesus said, "Before the cock crows, you would deny me 3 times," which he did again. So Jesus has given Peter a chance to redeem himself, to prove his love for him. And it's interesting. He always called him just Peter. But what does he say? Simon, son of John. Now, think of this now. It was my granddaughter's birthday Wednesday, and her name is Josephine. But everybody calls her Joe, either Joe or Jojo. Even her parents call her Joe. But when Josephine's in trouble, what does Mom say? Josephine Graham, her full name. It gets their attention. Well, this is what Jesus is doing to Peter. Simon, son of John, using the whole title, asking him if he loves them more than these. What do you think he means when he says, "Do you love me more than these?" Well, Peter had just literally gave up and went back fishing, back to what he did before he met Jesus. Good morning, Michelle. So Jesus is asking Peter, "Do you love me more than these fish, more than your livelihood?" And if you do, then he tells him 3 things: feed my lambs, take care of my sheep, feed my sheep. Now again, does Jesus literally mean sheep? No, of course not. Of course he doesn't mean sheep. Listen, John 10, 14, and 15, where Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep." Jesus is literally calling us his sheep. And now he's telling Peter, if you really love me, Peter, then I want you to feed my sheep. I want you to take care of my sheep. I want you to feed my lambs. Sounds exactly what Jesus is telling me to do. Jesus is saying, "Jim, if you really love me, feed my lambs. Feed the young Christian." It doesn't just mean young in age, young in their faith. Take care of my sheep. Feed my sheep. Feed even those that are mature in their faith. Now, let me ask, what do you think Jesus is telling you to do to prove your faith? Because I feel it strongly as I read this. I felt it strongly, like God was saying exactly the same thing to me. Jesus was saying the exact same thing to me. Jim, do you love me? And it's like Peter, I would say, "Well, Jesus, of course I love you." And then he'd say, well, okay then, Jim, keep feeding my sheep. Keep taking care of my sheep. Feed my lambs. Well, what do you think Jesus is telling you to do to prove your love for him? Morning, Larry. Well, what do you think he's telling you? Well, what are some of the things that you are doing for others? Because that's how you prove. You prove your love by helping his sheep, his people, your fellow Christian brothers and sisters. Listen here in Galatians 6:10, where it says this: "Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers." Do good to everybody, but especially your fellow Christian brothers and sisters. So, again, what are you doing? What are you doing to help them? And this doesn't just mean your immediate family, because even unbelievers do that. So it's not like you're doing a great job with your own children or your grandchildren. It's beyond that. I sincerely believe we prove our love for Jesus by what we do to help others. Many of you have adopted orphans in India. Many of you give generously to these special offerings that we have for the poor in India. Many of you physically help others. I mean, it's great that you give your money, but many physically help. I think of Dawn and Jamie, of Dandy and Grace and Alicia and Veronica and Irene, just to name a few, that are out there on the streets physically helping their brothers and sisters, just to name a few. What would you need to do to have your name added to that list that I just gave? What would you need to do to have your name added to that list? John, you're watching this. John is the only one now that still turns in these India banks, that collects his coins and his cash, and every time he comes by to give me his offering, he has a bank, and I give him a new one. John, your name is on this list because you are physically doing something to help them. I can remember, Veronica, when your girls that were faithful in turning in banks. Now it's amazing when adults do it, but when children do it, it's even more amazing. It must put a smile on Jesus' face that they're out there collecting coins from people that come to their house, because it's not like they have the money, and yet they would. And what I really loved about it is, it talks about, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. They were the types that, because every time someone turned in a bank at our church, a Collision, we would acknowledge them. Morning, Rose, we would acknowledge them. These girls, a lot of times, would turn the bank in when I didn't see it, and then I'd turn around at the end, and there would be a bank there, and I'd say, who's this? And then somebody would remind me that, so they weren't doing it just to be seen. They were doing it because they literally cared about their Christian brothers and sisters in another country. So what would you have to do to have your name added to that list? And I guess what's keeping you from doing it? What's keeping you from doing anything? My brother Gary, whose funeral is today, right now, happening right now as I'm speaking, several years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, he adopted 3 children in India, and he faithfully every month sent his check to me, as did my other brother and my other 2 brothers, Leo and Ronnie, and then Ronnie's girlfriend, and many of you in the church that do that. Shirley is faithful every week doing this. The Pokes do this. Dawn does this. Others that do it. So again, you prove your love. Jesus says, told Peter, you prove your love to me by feeding my lambs, feeding my sheep, and taking care of my sheep. That's what God asks us to do now. In 1 John, I'll finish with this. It says, dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. We prove our love for God by our love for one another. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Jerry. In 11 and 12, it says, "Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. But if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. God is love. Whoever lives in God lives in love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. In this way, love is made complete." And then finally, "And he has given us this command: whoever loves God must also love their brothers and sisters." Morning, Sharon. So, how do you prove your love to God? Love your brothers and sisters. Feed them. Take care of them. The very thing that God has asked me to do. And now he's asking you to do that same thing. So I pray that you heard God this morning. I pray that you have a desire to do something, maybe a desire to do even more than what you're doing. But please show Jesus how much you love him, by how well you love others, not just love them, but how well you feed them and take care of them. Because that's what Jesus asked Peter to do, and I believe that's what he's asking us to do. God bless you. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning again at 8 o'clock. Have a great one.